Thanks for tuning in to the Women's Vibrancy Code, a podcast dedicated to helping women move from exhausted to energized, balance their hormones, and feeling turned on by their life, their lover, and themselves. I'm your host, Maraya Brown. I'm a Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, midwife, mom, keynote speaker, and self-made entrepreneur. I'm the founder of my signature program, the Women's Vibrancy Code. So sit back, relax, and let's chat about your energy, hormones, libido, and embracing your feminine power. Oh, and you might want to have pen and paper to take some notes on some of these episodes. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Women's Vibrancy Code podcast. I've got a really fun guest for you today. This is Nagina Abdullah. Nagina Abdullah is a weight loss coach for women in midlife and founder of the top-rated website, masalabody.com. Nagina has a degree in molecular and cell biology from UC Berkeley and earned an MBA at NYU. She's helped more than 1,500 women in midlife successfully lose weight permanently and create a lifestyle change. And I know for those of you that are already going, wait, Mariah's interviewing someone about weight loss. Just wait. I have my reasons here, okay? Nagina teaches women to boost their metabolism naturally to burn fat, even when nothing else has worked. She focuses on adding and combining natural metabolism-boosting foods to reduce belly fat and get women unstuck so that they can live in their dream body. So Nagina, welcome.
Thanks, Maraya. I'm very excited to be here with you.
Yeah, happy to have you. And many of my listeners know that I maybe have never said that I run a program that helps people lose weight, although often they do. Because when we reduce inflammation, the weight goes. When we enhance our gut microbiome, weight stabilizes, right? When we help support our thyroid, the weight gets better. And I often feel like whether a woman is 100 pounds or 200 pounds or 300 pounds, what value do we place on the weight? And the hope is that a woman can find her deep sense of self-love and belonging and identify with her worthiness regardless of the weight. So just saying, when it comes to the Women's Vibrancy Code podcast, this is a first. And when you and I have had conversations and I think about JJ Virgin and that lineage and the introduction with the two of us, you guys, if you're listening, I wouldn't bring Nagina in if I didn't feel like her approach and energy is the right fit for this conversation. So with that caveat, Nagina, anything you want to say right up front?
Oh, well, thanks so much. I'm so honored that you shared my approach like that. And it's, what I can share is I personally had struggled with sugar cravings for my whole life. I had really wanted to find a way to just have a lifestyle. Like at the beginning, I wanted to know, how do I control what I'm eating? But then it evolved into so much bigger than that, whereas I just wanted to be healthy and I didn't want to have to restrict myself. And so, over time, that's what I figured out. I found out how to overcome sugar cravings where I'm not fighting them. I just treat my body in a way where my gut health is so good now that it's not craving sugar. And, I lost 40 pounds in 9 months about 14 years ago. And it was life-changing for me because it gave me more energy to do all the things that I wanted to do. And it also gave me that health and that confidence. But after then I went through midlife and things changed again. And I started getting more inflammation, hormone changes. And so I went through a new transformation. But overall, the way of treating yourself with empathy, but with abundance and never restricting, never dieting, but actually giving yourself more, that's been the way that I have actually accomplished my health goals. And that's what, we'll talk about more today too, I know.
Yeah. So to be able to go, this is not about restriction. It's actually adding more abundance in all areas, more love, more vitality, more energy, more better sleep, and feeding ourselves more of the right foods, the right mindset, the right energy. When you had the initial experience of 40 pounds released, what did it change for you? Did you feel like, oh, this version of Nagina is a different version of who she was before? And then the second round as well? Like when you think about identity shift.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was the same person inside, but it changed a lot of what I could do. It changed a lot of how I felt like I perceived myself, but it changed the fact that I had so much more energy. Like I wasn't carrying 40 pounds.
Mm,
So when you take off 40 pounds of weight from your body, or even 20 pounds, even 12 pounds, it's like you're releasing so much. And I mean, I was able to hike more. I snowboard regularly with my teenagers now. That was something that was hard for me to just like walk up hills before. Now I can just easily like, I can hike long distances. I can run. I can do 5Ks with my kids. And then also I actually like wanted to wear certain clothes that were fitting me, that I needed to that I just wanted a certain look for. And I think everyone in every size looks beautiful, and there's absolutely everything right with how, how someone looks no matter what weight they are. But there was certain things that I wanted the shape for, and that I didn't want to have to go up in my sizes, and I don't want to have to buy a whole new wardrobe. And so for me, it gave me a lot of freedom, and it also it allowed me to release more energy, to have more energy, and to be more active in my lifestyle. And it did give me so much more confidence that I actually started my business that I lead now. I was able to leave my corporate job and start my business because I had more energy, I had more confidence. And the thing is, as an ambitious woman, I felt like I accomplished something. And that accomplishment drove me to say, I can do so much more.
mm.
So it didn't change my personality. It didn't change who I was inside. It didn't change how I love. It didn't change how I interact with my friends and my husband, but it gave me a new freedom to do a lot more in my life.
I love it. I love it. More freedom, more energy, more confidence. For those that are listening that are like, "Oh, yeah, I've tried it all. Here's another conversation around weight loss," or, "Yeah, but I'm in the midst," like, that many women will say, "Yeah, I figured it out. I dialed it in, and then perimenopause and menopause hit." And everything changed, and all the things that I had been doing no longer worked, and women will say, "I'm exercising every day, I'm eating great food, I've had all my labs tested," and now there's that big change. Would you just right up front speak to that woman that's listening?
Yes, because that actually happened to me and nobody could explain it. Everyone, I went to see my doctor and I said, "What's going on?" The thing is, because I was so healthy, when I started gaining weight and I had like very low stress in my life, I was sleeping 7 to 8 hours. So I was doing all the things that people say you're supposed to do. And I've been doing that for years because that's part of who I am now. I'm just overall healthy. But I started gaining weight, and I started gaining it in my midsection. It also started coming all over my body, but my midsection started to get very bloated looking. And I didn't know what was happening. And so I've done a lot of research and I've actually overcome it. I've actually lost that bloat completely and gone back to where I was before, which I never actually thought that would be possible when I was going through it. But the main thing I want to share is that this is not your fault. You are not doing anything wrong if you're in perimenopause or postmenopause and you're experiencing a change in your body. It's not that you're not working hard enough, that you're not eating little enough. It's not that you are like sleeping too little, though maybe some of these things contribute to it, but it actually, our body has shifted. And there's so many studies that show that when our estrogen declines, that's a protective hormone, as we know. But one of the things it protects us against is inflammation. And so when our estrogen goes down, starting in perimenopause, then our body releases what's called as cytokines. They're inflammatory molecules that are released. And when they're released, they are creating this inflammation that estrogen used to protect us from. And so no matter how little we eat, no matter how healthy we eat, to a point, there's going to be some things I'm going to share today that actually make a big difference. It's a different kind of healthy eating. And no matter how much we exercise, it's not that we're working on fat anymore. Fat may be part of the equation, but it's inflammation that has absolutely changed in midlife. And so it's really addressing that inflammation while, depending on where you are in your own, in your own body, continuing to work on making sure that you're not storing more fat and perhaps burning fat, but adding in that inflammation aspect. And it's not that you are doing something wrong as a woman in midlife, your body's changing, And so what was working for us before will not work for us now. And what I mean specifically is dieting. Like dieting and eating less will only cause you to be stuck. And likely, if you're listening to this, you've probably tried that route already where you've tried to restrict calories and you've tried to diet. Well, if you're noticing that you're stuck, it's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's because you need something different at this phase in your life. And it's
Mm.
not about restricting anymore.
So good. I love it. It's not about restricting, it's about abundance and the acknowledgement that as we go through different chapters of our life, there is a lot changing underneath the hood. So did you go on bioidentical estrogen? Did you address the estrogen conversation for yourself personally? Or do you recommend that? Or is it really just shifting the foods to address the new inflammation and the new metabolism that is being created during this chapter of a woman's life?
Well, hormones can definitely help in lots of things, but it's not going to solve all the problems. It's not going to
Mhm.
solve everything at all. It's not an easy kind of like fast bullet that you take hormones and then everything gets corrected, but it does make you feel better in different ways. For me, when I got my blood work, I was not low enough in estrogen to require me having replacement yet. But I did get some replacement for testosterone and progesterone. And so what that did for me is that testosterone allowed me to build more muscle because I was not able to build muscle for almost a year and a half. Was going to the gym like I had been, but yet my muscle was just not growing and nothing was changing in my body. And then once I found out how low my testosterone was that my doctor had not told me about, that I had to go and find other avenues to actually find out what was happening. Changing that, that changed a lot for me. It cleared up my brain fog, which was very bad. It cleared up my feeling very fatigued, and it also allowed me to build muscle. But what really changed the progesterone helped me feel more loving again instead of
Mhm.
like this robot that I started to feel like. So it helped me in those ways that are indirect in terms of weight loss. And of course, helped me feel so much better. I thank God every day when I apply my testosterone. I'm like, thank you for letting me have access to this. But what actually changed the inflammation was eating. It was food
Mhm.
and it was natural nutrients. It was nothing artificial. It was actually being tuned in and aligned with what my gut needed so that it could release that inflammation. And so
Mm.
it was really about adding different foods that I thought were bad for me before, that I thought were going to that I thought were going to cause me weight gain. I actually started adding some of those foods. Like we'll talk about the details, but just for an
Yeah.
example, some of those foods are potatoes and olive oil. I started adding some of those foods to my diet and in a very structured way because I was studying what was happening and I didn't want to, it wasn't like I was pairing it with other foods that were allowing me to keep my blood sugar even. But there's certain qualities in foods like that actually bust the inflammation.
Well, and
But
I love that you come from a background in molecular and cell biology.
Mhm.
So my guess is as you tackled this looking at the foods, you actually understand the science and how they're actually interacting at a cellular level within the body. So let's dig into what are some of the foods that if we actually eat what we love and it helps us boost our metabolism. So I heard potatoes and olive oil. But I also heard you say it's about pairing. So can you get into some of the nitty-gritties?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited because the first thing is if we hold back from eating these foods, our body just stays in survival mode. And because we are now starting to decline in our hormone production, which was also very protective of us, if we decline in our nutrients, then our gut is not able to digest foods and detox foods. And if you don't allow your body, your liver, for example, or your gut to detox foods, then those create toxins in your body that create more inflammation. And we have to actually, what I call, feed yourself up with the right foods so that your body has what it needs to actually excrete things in the correct way. So the other piece of inflammation, the other piece is fat, and that largely doesn't necessarily come from calories; it's from blood sugar. And so I want to start there with blood sugar. And I want to talk about some of the foods that are very, very important because as I have women that I coach, I still see that the number one thing that's helping them lose weight, even in midlife, is to address their blood sugar. And then the inflammation also lowers. And then we start to do some more specific work on their bloating and their inflammation. But a lot of it comes off when you balance your blood sugar, and that allows you to burn more fat. So the reason that blood sugar is so important is because if you are eating something like a simple carb, like a piece of bread, or just pasta on its own, or any kind of other sugar, your blood sugar is going to spike. And then what will happen is that it will go down very quickly because insulin is released to allow our blood sugar to stay even. And while that up and down is going on in our blood sugar, we're storing fat in that moment. And another thing that's happening is that our energy is going up and then it's coming down. So we're feeling up and down crashes, which is horrible in midlife because it causes stress for us as well. And then it also causes us more hunger. So we're eating more because our blood sugar is going up and down. So the number one thing to add to our day, and this may be something that's common, but I want to talk about it to understand how to pair it and how to combine it with other foods, is to add more protein. And this is still the number one thing that women are still under eating. And by the way, one of the biggest problems that women are having in midlife and is causing them to stay stuck is under eating in general, because we've been taught that we have to eat less. And so that's why women are no longer able to lose weight, because they're continuing that under eating when it doesn't work for us, when our body's craving nutrients. So when you actually add protein to every meal and then you pair your protein with carbs, with fruit, sometimes with foods that have sugar, other sugars in them, then protein stabilizes our blood sugar. And it also increases our metabolism and it keeps us full for longer. So it is that important to have enough protein. And when I say enough, I mean about 30 grams of protein at every meal, and then even plus a snack. Because at a minimum, for most women, we're going to need at least 100 grams of protein a day. And it's very easy to get that if you just think about having protein at each meal and maybe a little snack. And I can like talk through some examples if you'd like to.
Well, and I'm laughing at myself because today's one of those days. For those of you that listening to this, it's a holiday, and we fit this in. My kids are downstairs. I had an extra call at 9 a.m. I don't ever book calls before 10 a.m. So I've been on back to back calls, and I had a protein bar in my drawer, and I also have my jars of nuts. So I'm like shoving it in my mouth right before we get on. And I'm looking at my protein bar going, ooh, how many grams of protein were in this? This had 12 grams. Okay, so that was 12 grams of protein as a snack. Okay, all right, now I'm listening. So we're talking about blood sugar maintenance and really calling out what that does when our blood sugars are out of whack or we're having the spike, how it sends us on a roller coaster of our energy, of our mood, our brain clarity, and then also forces the body to store more fat as a byproduct of the blood sugars being out of whack. And then I'm hearing we need to eat more protein, and then it's gonna help. I love that I heard it's not that we need to eat less, it's that our body's just craving more nutrients. So, a caveat, in America, we go out to eat, and the portion sizes, I think, are really more meant at a typical restaurant are probably enough to feed 4 people. I wanna just clarify, sometimes I think people have this notion that we have to finish all the food on our plate. And so we go out to eat, portion sizes are too large. And then they hear, oh, but Nagina said that it's not that I have to eat less. But we go, but wait a minute. Those meals are not nutrient dense. So I want to make sure you heard those two things together. That she said it's not that you have to eat less, but you do need more nutrient dense food. So if you're going out to crappy restaurants, maybe you actually do eat less portion sizes. Can you speak to that?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And so it makes a big difference of what you're eating, because now it's not just calories in, calories out. And I still find that to be a big myth that people feel like, oh, I should eat less calories. Actually, what we should be doing is we should be eating more nutrients. And those nutrient dense foods are naturally low in calories. The foods that are not nutrient dense are high in calories. So thinking about just like a regular plate, and, this reminds me of a story that my client just told me today. She just finished going through her fat burning phase and then bloat busting, what we call a bloat busting phase. And she lost over 5.5 inches from her waist, which is all like, that's healthy when you're losing weight from your waist, when you're losing inches from your waist, that's taking away visceral fat, which is the cause of a lot of chronic disease later in life. And so, she was explaining to me how she went out to eat and she ate more of this fish that was on her plate. She ate the whole thing. It was a really big fillet. She ate all of it. The people around her ate all of the sides and they ate more of the sides and they didn't finish their actual main. And so when they left, the other people, they felt so bloated and tired. And they were talking about how they had to go home and open up their pants because their stomach was expanding. But yet she felt so good and she had eaten a good amount herself. And so the key thing is when you're going to eat, the thing that happens is that a lot of times the protein sizes are smaller and then the unhealthy carb sides and the other sides are bigger. And so, like, say, even if you're ordering a salad and you think you're being healthy, which you are, I mean, you're being healthier, but a lot of times the portion sizes for the meat or the protein on there are like 2.5 to 3 ounces. But really, what you should be eating is 5 to 6 ounces. And so, you're going to feel hungry if you don't eat enough of that protein because that's what was nourishing you. That's what's keeping you full. Protein digests more slowly than other foods. So, you'll feel full for longer. But if you have less of it, you will be craving, you will be saying, I need more bread or I want to have dessert. But imagine that you're in a place where you don't even want the bread that's in front of you. You're not even fighting it. Or maybe you have a piece and you're like, I'm good. I'm satisfied. I'm not just going mindlessly and eating, continuing to eat it. So, really feeling satisfied by the protein. And then, secondly, the other piece is what I call tasty veggies, because first of all, we all know we're supposed to eat vegetables. But the biggest problem that I've seen is that a lot of people may not love the taste of vegetables. Yet we'll eat them because we know that we should. But to actually crave vegetables, then you're on a different plane. And that's what happens. And imagine craving vegetables instead of sugar. I mean, does it even seem possible? It may not even seem possible. But I can tell you, I used to crave sugar, and now every meal, my stomach is growling for vegetables. And I love those vegetables because the reason is they make your gut feel so good. And your gut is also connected to your brain. So your brain is feeling balanced, your mood is even. But vegetables have a lot of fiber. And one of the most important things for women in midlife is to have a high fiber diet because fiber is helping to push toxins and push foods out of our gut, excrete them, but it also helps you feel full and nourished with the right amount of calories. And so vegetables are a natural, easy way to get more fiber without sugar in them. And fruit is also a great way to get fiber. You just have more sugar in them. And so you always want to make sure you're balancing fruit with either a protein or a healthy fat like peanut butter, nuts, a cheese stick, something like that. And also just knowing that even though fruit has natural sugars in them, they're still sugars and they are going to spike your blood sugar and they are going to cause fat storage. And so that's why just knowing, like maintaining, having the right amount of fruit or going for lower sugar fruits like our berries, a tangerine, a small apple, those are good options. But vegetables have all the fiber without that. So, a way that I advise to make vegetables tasty is to use spices on them. And, spices don't have anything bad. They have so many things good about them. In fact, they increase our metabolism even more. And using certain spices like turmeric, along with black pepper, turmeric reduces inflammation and bloating. Cumin helps to reduce belly fat. There's been studies that have been proven. Coriander helps to reduce water retention and bloating. You don't have to measure your spices. It's just sprinkling them on. And then a lot of times roasting your vegetables brings out the natural sweetness of them. These are some tricks that you can use that make you start wanting to eat your vegetables, where you're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in a restaurant. I feel like this tastes so good. And then and then the thing is you start prioritizing vegetables because once you start feeding your body with vegetables, your body starts needing that and it starts actually responding to it because our gut biome, it's full of healthy and unhealthy bacteria. But the healthy bacteria will grow when you're feeding it. Now, if you're feeding your gut sugar, then that unhealthy bacteria is growing and it's making you crave more sugar. So your body's responding to what you're giving it. You're not necessarily born with sugar cravings or born with a taste for vegetables. It depends if you're giving your body more vegetables, it'll start coming around and wanting more vegetables.
I remember when I did my nurse practitioner training, I was at Yale University, and my nutrition professor, his name is Dr. David Katz, and he talked about something called metabolic programming, which is literally your body will crave what you eat, which is this conversation. When we
Yes.
start incorporating vegetables, even in just little minute bits, it starts turning on the body goes, "Oh, that thing, that's familiar. I'm gonna want more of that." And
Mhm,
then I love that you're speaking to this gut brain connection because they really are. We've got our brain in our head and we have our brain in our gut, and they're
mhm,
speaking so potently to one another. And so thank you for highlighting this gut microbiome conversation and the potency of our metabolic programming so that when we're eating that quality protein, sounds like a lot more of it for all of us,
mhm,
pairing it with vegetables for the fiber, the
mhm,
prebiotic, the probiotic sources, and then allowing the gut and the brain to communicate. It changes cravings, changes blood sugars, now changes metabolism, changes fat storage, helps the body feel safe. I love at the beginning, you mentioned specifically that conscious or unconscious source of safety. So good. I also, when we were having a conversation, you had mentioned the three metabolism boosting principles.
mhm.
I'm curious, can you speak to that a little bit? What are those?
The 3 metabolism boosting principles. Okay,
Yeah.
so the first one is really around protein more. So that's what we talked about around protein more. So that's a very important principle, and then combining it with tasty veggies. So protein more, tasty veggies. Another there's one more that I want to share, and then there's the second one, and the third one is a mindset. So the second principle is around healthy fats and why it's so important to have these healthy fats in our diet, because healthy fats are reducing inflammation in our bodies. And healthy fats in the forms of oils are very important. Like flaxseed oil has a lot of what's called omega 3s. And omega 3s they help to balance what the types of fats that we need. And they're very important for our brain health. And they're also important for us to flush out inflammation. And so a really good source of these omega 3s in an oil is flaxseed oil. Also flaxseed. That's amazing. And then the other thing is olive oil. That's where that olive oil component comes in. And so really having healthy fats, and then along with that same principle is healthy carbs. So healthy carbs means that we need to nourish our body with healthy carbs. If we restrict ourselves from carbs, here's where things start going south quickly. That's in midlife. Our healthy carbs nourish our thyroid, and our thyroid is our metabolism boosting gland. And so our thyroid needs carbs. It's very shocking. I was actually surprised myself. And because there's times I had tried low carb diets in the past, they work and then they stop working. But if you start going low carb in midlife, you're compromising a lot of things like your thyroid. And you could be finding that might find at some point that you could have you could be moving towards the direction of hypothyroidism. You could be seeing things happening like Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease. And that's because you're not giving your body what it needs. And you'll find when you give yourself carbs that you pair it with the protein and the veggies so that your blood sugar stays even and you don't burn fat, then what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to feed yourself, give your thyroid what it needs so that it starts producing the thyroid hormones that are increasing our metabolism. So
Love
those
it.
are those are
Yeah.
those ones. And then the
Really quick, but so I heard the adding, I heard the pairing. Just from a hormonal standpoint, I love two things that you just mentioned. One is ground flax or flaxseed oil is also lovely as a phytoestrogen. So it's also supporting the estrogen conversation.
yes.
And I love that you highlighted the importance of carbohydrates, yes, for thyroid, but also for our progesterone production.
Mhm.
Often, for those that are restricting carbohydrates, specifically in our luteal phase or the PMS time, and for those that are still menstruating, my friends, progesterone requires carbohydrates. And so by adding in healthy carbohydrates, we're helping that progesterone production and supporting the thyroid. And then bringing in the spices on the tasty, we can add in quality salt. And now that's also supporting the thyroid and the adrenals. So I love this. We're still on the same page. Okay, go ahead. What was
Yeah,
next?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's so true because as our hormones are declining, carbohydrates are one of the things that we really need, and the other thing the other reason, another reason is that as we know it's important to build muscle, for those of us that are working on building muscle, we need carbs for muscle. We don't only need protein to build muscle. You also need carbs, and you will build so much more muscle so much faster if you're eating more of these foods. Otherwise, you're going to go work out and you're not going to fuel your body. So you're going to be looking the same and being the same body composition year after year instead of actually going towards more muscle and less fat, which is ideal for a healthy body. And so finally, the other metabolic principle is, like I said, it's a mindset, and it's what I call all or nothing. It's not all or nothing. And a lot of times we have this way of thinking, which comes from the diet culture, which is I have to be perfect. I have to be perfectly healthy all day. And if I end up eating an unhealthy snack around 3 o'clock, which is very common for a lot of women because we feel stressed at that time, we may not have something to go to right away. If we end up eating something unhealthy as a pick me up, then a lot of times what we tell ourselves is, well, I'm just gonna it doesn't matter what I do for the rest of the day. I might as well have an unhealthy dinner. And we end up, either ordering out something healthy, just putting something together, or maybe skipping a meal because we want to make up for that unhealthy snack, which is also very unhealthy because we're slowing our metabolism by not eating. And so instead of thinking it's not all or nothing, I recommend thinking of it as instead of thinking of it's all or nothing, think of it as it's not all or nothing. I can make the healthy choice. Just a little analogy about this is like if you are parallel parking a car and you're going back into a spot and by mistake you hit the bumper behind you, by mistake you just tap it, are you going to keep going in that direction and tapping and bumping and crashing into that car, or are you going to reverse and go back the other way? And it's the same thing for eating something that you may not think was the best, healthiest thing. It's okay if you ate it. There was a reason you ate it. You can learn from it. Maybe the following day you can think about having a healthier snack, or likely you didn't eat enough at lunch. And so you're now very hungry because you waited too long. So learning from that, but then thinking, okay, I needed that in the moment. I'm still going to eat healthy now because it's not a black and white fail or win conversation. There's a lot of gray areas. A lifestyle is not about being perfect. A lifestyle is about sometimes you're not able to have control. Sometimes you are. Sometimes you didn't plan things, but let's just learn from it and take one step at a time and get better. And so I think that creates some freedom for us to think about food and to think about our choices. It's never about perfection. It's more about making a healthy choice as much as we can. Something better than yesterday is a really great way to start.
Mm-hmm. It also makes me think I'm currently taking Kathleen Cameron's Modern Mentor course, and she was this morning talking about just rhythms. And she used the analogy of a garden, and we'll plant a seed, and we know that it's going to take time for the harvest to take place, right? Or we'll tend to our garden and go water it, and then we walk away, and we don't continue to water and water and water and water, expecting it to happen now. But I think in the same light, we get to give ourselves some grace. Like the tide comes in, the tide goes out. We don't have to be perfect all the time. We don't have to be producing all of the time. We don't have to be harvesting fruit all of the time, but to be able to go, oh, bumped up against that bumper, gonna go the other way. I'm not gonna beat myself up about it and allow it to ruin the rest of my day. I'm gonna go take a pause, step away, take a deep breath, and move on. I could keep talking to you forever. I also know that you have a 5-day metabolism boost for midlife women event coming up. It's right around the corner. For those of you that are listening right when this podcast comes out, this one starts February 24th. So it is like right around the corner. I'm curious if you would speak a little bit to that and just anything else you want to add we've covered a lot of ground, and I wanna make sure we talk about semaglutides. I'm curious your opinion on the Ozempic craze.
Yes, yes, I would love to share that. Well, I'm so excited because I am hosting a 5-day metabolism boost for midlife women. And this is going to be where I'm teaching live for 5 days. Plus, I'm going to probably, as I always do, I add some bonus days on. And we're going to be talking about things that are really affecting women in midlife. And I'm going to be giving you solutions that are actionable. So, our day one is around the 4-part metabolism boosting morning routine. And I'm going to teach you the different elements about how to get your day started. One of my days, day 4, is going to be where I'm talking about how to get off sugar without feeling tired or restricted. And I'm going to show you how to combine your foods, what to add, and how sugar cravings are not about saying, I'm not going to eat sugar. Sugar cravings are more about how to add foods that cause you to no longer want sugar. But you choose them. And so I'm going to show you so many tricks. A lot of people say they learn more in this free 5-day challenge than from any of the paid weight loss or healthy eating types of programs that they've done before. And so yeah, so I'm so excited. We have the link below for you to join, and it's gonna be live. So I'm excited about that. And so yes, let me talk about semi-glutides. And let me start off by saying I don't think it's a bad thing. There are people that definitely need semi-glutides, and there's a lot of other benefits to it as well. But I don't approve of it as a first scenario of where to start or where to go if you feel like it's easier than changing your lifestyle. Because even when I had the inflammation issues, even the doctors I went to were saying, well, if what you're doing doesn't work in 3 months, why don't you just take semaglutides? And I was like, but I want to figure out what's going on because I've always been able to know, I've always had control, it's ever since I lost that weight. I want to know what's changed. I want to understand it. And the doctors themselves, they don't know what to do. In fact, many of my clients are doctors, but they have this tool that they prescribe and it's working for some people. So they give it to people, but it's not the end all be all because when you get off of this, unless you have a healthy lifestyle, meaning building muscle, adding protein, knowing how to pair and combine your foods, keeping your metabolism high, your weight is just going to come back on. But the worst part of it is that if you don't have a healthy lifestyle and you're taking a semaglutide like Ozempic or Wegovy or one of those, you are losing muscle mass as well. That's directly impacting us in midlife because that's making our metabolism slow even more, but also we're weaker. We can't do as much. We're going to be more tired. We can't run as much. There's a lot you can't do. And over time, let's talk about decades from now, that means that you're not going to be able to sit and stand and lift basic things unless we're working on our muscle, which is very important to do during midlife as well. And so for those people that do it, if you do it and you also are building a healthy lifestyle, that's going to take you far. That's going to be helpful. But that means that you got to you got to change something. You do have to make some changes, but really the answer is getting off of dieting, moving towards a healthy lifestyle. If you feel like it's something that can work for you to add in a semaglutide as a tool, then that can work. But having that healthy lifestyle is the core foundation to the way that we should progress. So it's a tool that could help some people, but you may not even need it if you attack your body and if you add the right foods and really work on burning fat and decreasing inflammation and bloat. You may find that you don't even need it. You just need some new strategies. You need a new way of doing things, not an old way of doing things.
Mhm. Yeah, so good. Thank you. I know that I still feel like I'm on the fence with the semaglutide craze. I worry about people becoming dependent and will their body lose its own ability to produce insulin on its own and what happens afterwards, and we've got the muscle loss. And it's everybody gets to make their own decisions. I have a good friend who's a provider that's using them in a super, super, super low dose as inflammatory reduction, and she recovered from her autoimmune condition. But anyway, the big point here for everyone listening, hopefully you've had a lovely time listening to Nagina and everything that she has to teach. Holy macaroni. And really, truly, I have actually heard that this 5-day metabolism boost event, it's free for midlife women. is spectacular. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Nagina on specifically to say, all right, y'all, register, attend this, learn, grow, plan to take your notes and apply everything that's being taught. I love that you're coming from a scientific background. I love that you're honoring food as medicine and empowering women with the knowledge and lifestyle to be able to make changes without being dependent or needing a prescription. Not that they're all bad. You and I are both playing around with some bioidentical testosterone cream. And of course, I'm appreciative, right? But we get to also look at it from what we're putting in our mouth. And then I love the mindset energetics that it doesn't have to be all or none, but to give ourselves some grace and trust that we'll plant the seed and harvest later, bump up against the bumper, and allow ourselves to pivot without it ruining our day. Anything else that you wanna add? Anything that feels unsaid?
I mean, I think we said, we went through a lot of different things. And I think just actually having hope and knowing that we can be our healthiest ever in midlife. Like I looked at perimenopause as a call to action that I had to learn how to be even healthier. And there's two directions we can go in during midlife, and that's to get healthier or to really make it hard, to really have to work hard every day. You got to work hard either way. But you can either get healthier, be more active, be able to know that you have more longevity, you have a better health span as well, or you can really struggle every day and just like be facing sugar cravings and all of those things, or you can overcome them. And so this is a call to action because we kind of can't be the same, but something's going to happen. So you can either take action or you can just let that happen to you. And I actually believe we can be the healthiest ever because now we have a little, some of us are having more space, more time to think about ourselves, but it's the time to
Mhm.
put ourselves first no matter what, because otherwise it's going to get a lot harder. So, but it could get a
So
lot
good.
too.
So good. And once again, it's not just about the scale. This is about inflammation reduction. This is about longevity increase. This is about increase in energy, which then impacts our confidence. And of course, the reduction in weight gives more freedom to our joints and allows us to do more. But I love your approach to be able to go foundationally to look at how do we optimize our metabolism and inflammation reduction and help that gut health conversation. And yes, we get to celebrate the byproduct, which is a reduction in size and weight on the scale, but it's so much bigger and more important. So thank you for your mission. Thank you for how you're educating women. And I hope everybody, for those of you that attend her workshop, please, you're welcome to reach out to me and say everything that you loved about it. With that, Nagina, just grateful for you. And yeah, we'll have to continue to chat outside of this. And I'm grateful for how you're serving women in the world.
Thank you so much. And thank you for giving this space and this time to have this conversation and for all the work that you do, Mariah, which is
Yeah,
amazing.
of course. All the links are in the show notes. And you're also welcome to come and join for pause. Take a peek in the show notes.